All right, this video we are talking about the humanistic perspective on personality. So first of all, we've talked about humanism before when we talked about Abraham Maslow, but humanism, just to remind us, the humanistic perspective is focusing on health, how healthy people work towards self-realization. They kind of looked at the humanistic perspective as a polar opposite of psychoanalysis, because psychoanalysis with Freud, he looked at some really not healthy people, some very disturbed people, and how they developed to be who they are. The humanistic perspective focused on healthy people and quote unquote normal people, and how they all work towards this idea of self-realization. So if you remember Abraham Maslow, he was the guy that was saying that we all work towards achieving self-actualization, or your potential, you're achieving your potential. So remember that guy, and we had our little pyramid with our physical needs, and then our safety, and our love and belonging, and self-esteem, and self-actualization. There's some triangles that actually include on the top self-transcendence. But the idea is that Maslow believed that everybody is working towards their own potential. But he argued that, few people actually become self-actualized. So this is a process that you go through throughout your entire life. And he admitted that there's a lot of people that don't always become self-actualized. He said that's an adult thing to do, but it doesn't always happen. So a couple reasons why it doesn't happen is it's one of the weakest needs out there. It's at the very top, and it's one of those things where, you got to fulfill a lot of the other things below in order to get there. And it's not a huge need for everybody. We also fear and doubt our abilities. So oftentimes, to be able to achieve your potential, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to take risks. And for a lot of people, we fear failure, and we doubt whether or not we can actually get there, and we doubt our potential, and we don't think we have a high potential. And so as a result, we don't quite achieve our self-actualization. This one, it says, we are all born dreamers. It's the fear of failure that stops us from chasing them. That's true. A lot of us are really scared about, okay, well, what if this doesn't work out? What if I can't do that? What if, I really, really want to be able to be a pediatrician? And, what if I fail? What if I don't get into medical school? What if, these things just don't happen? So, our failures are results of our fear, not necessarily because that we can't do it. Culture may even stifle us, depending upon what culture is telling you. So we have cultural norms as far as what men and women are supposed to do. So if, for example, you are a man that is really in touch with their feelings, and you really want to go into primarily female-oriented dominated field, for example, maybe you want to really be a nurse, right? Maybe you're going to be stifled by the fact that culture looks down upon that. It's getting better, but we still have that stigmatism of, what men are supposed to be like. So, that man that's in touch with his feelings, culture may not approve of. Childhood experiences may also limit our growth, particularly experiences with your parents. It says, many parents will do anything for their kids except let them be themselves. Some parents, and this goes back to our parenting styles when we talked about last semester, is that some parents are very, very controlling, and are authoritarian parents, are very controlling, and they don't let their kids grow and learn and make their own mistakes. And some parents are very permissive, and some parents just let their kid do whatever, which is also not good, because then they don't learn any rules or structure or discipline. So you have to have that healthy balance. And it goes back to our whole authoritative parenting is the best type of parenting to be able to, for example, develop people that are eventually working towards their own potential and achieve self-actualization as an adult. Another psychologist that is associated with the humanistic perspective is a guy by the name of Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers, that's obviously a picture as he was a little older, but Carl Rogers believed that people can become self-actualized as long as their environment provides us with particular situations. And he was all about that. He agreed with Maslow that self-actualization is a goal of everyone, but our environment has to provide us with the tools to be able to achieve it. So he argued that, people need to be genuine about their feelings. And so being genuine about their feelings and other people around them will encourage people to become more self-actualized. Okay. So not hiding behind a mask, not going and saying, yep, I'm fine, right? I'm fine. No, there's nothing wrong with me. Being honest about your feelings. Also having some sort of unconditional positive regard. When you are valued despite your flaws. Everybody has flaws, but being valued and being loved and respected despite those flaws, Carl Rogers says that helps with our potential. So, I love you no matter what, right? Even with all of your strengths and all your weaknesses and all of your flaws, that unconditional positive regard that our environment and the people around us provide us with. People also must be empathetic. They must, identify with other people's feelings. I love this cartoon. I see it frequently when I'm looking for empathetic examples. It says, I know exactly how you feel. I can't remember if I've used that before. But again, it's looking at, feeling, being empathetic is feeling for somebody else and showing your feelings for somebody else. And when we see these things happening, and our environment provides us with this, so the people around us provide us with these things, you're going to be much more likely to become self-actualized. Now, both Rogers and Maslow emphasize that a positive self-concept will help make us perceive things more positively. Obviously, the negative is also true. So a negative self-concept will make you perceive things as negatively. If you have a positive view of yourself, you'll see things as more positively, and you'll look at the world a different way. Okay. Now, how is humanism affected today? Well, how do people take humanism today? Well, ideas have been used in education, counseling, child rearing, and general overall management in the business area. I think I mentioned this before when we talked about humanism in the humanistic perspective and that idea of that need to belong and that kind of a thing. But it's used a lot in education. If you talk to anybody who is a teacher, they probably had in some of their education, somewhere along their way in education classes, they talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's very, very common. Anytime you talk to a teacher, they'll talk about, making sure that a child is fulfilling their lower level needs before you can ask them to do anything that serves the purpose of trying to achieve their potential. So this is very common to use today in particular areas. There are criticisms to humanistic perspective. A lot of people said the ideas are vague. Okay, well, self-actualization, what the heck does that mean? I mean, your potential. How can we measure that? Who knows what the heck that means? This idea of self-actualization and transcendence. How do you know if somebody's actually achieved that? Does that make any sense? Can you measure that in a quantitative way? A lot of critics make that argument. They also argue that, okay, your self-actualization is achieving your potential. Well, there's a lot of things that could result from you working on only yourself that's kind of selfish. So you're going to have some selfishness to it. So, as a matter of fact, the world does revolve around me, right? So, that's one of the negative things about humanism. And there's like, is this necessarily always a good thing? And then what about people that are downright evil? Does everybody working on their self-actualization and self-transcendence? Self-transcendence is, all about working towards, the human good and things like that. What about people like Hitler? Okay, was he working towards self-actualization? He's achieving his own self-potential. I guess in an evil way he is, but a lot of people argue, well, that doesn't really fit for people that are actually bad people, because there unfortunately are bad people out there. how does this theory explain those personalities? So there are some good sides and bad sides to humanism, but that's pretty much all we had to talk about with humanism. So that's it. Let me know if you have any questions.